Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with how to make your own prepared hot horseradish. That's right, every time we do a video that uses horseradish, I always get a bunch of emails from people claiming that they can't find horseradish in the jar. Oh, they say they can find the fresh root, but nothing that's already made. So if you're one of these people that just does not have access to prepared horseradish, or you've just always wanted to know how to make it yourself, I figured I would show you how it's done. So let's go ahead and saddle up and start what is a very simple procedure. So first up, you're going to need some fresh horseradish root, which looks something like this. Well, actually, it looks exactly like that, since that's horseradish. And then before we're able to process this, what we need to do is peel it. So I'm going to take my heavy-duty potato peeler and peel these roots right down to the white flesh. So don't worry about peeling too much. We want to be very thorough. And like I said, we want to peel everything that's not white. And since I'm pretty sure you're all clear on the concept of peeling, let's go ahead and move on to what happens after they're peeled, which would be to take a knife and trim off the ends, and then we're going to cube this up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half, and then we'll slice it lengthwise. And by the way, horseradish is very, very woody and firm, so please be very careful and keep your fingertips out of the way. And then what we'll do is turn it and just slice it into, 1/4-inch, half-inch pieces. And right here I started slicing and I realized I want these a little smaller. So I split them lengthwise again, before continuing on with the aforementioned slicing. And even though we're actually going to grind this in a food processor, we really do want to cube them up like this first, as they will process way more easily. So we'll continue on, dividing and conquering and slicing. And then once we've prepared the horseradish for our prepared horseradish, the rest of this procedure is incredibly simple. What we'll do is process this horseradish with some nice plain fresh cold water, and then to finish it off, all we're going to have to do is add some salt and some white vinegar. And believe it or not, that is pretty much it. So at this point, we can head over to the food processor. And yes, you really do need one of these to make this. But if you don't have one, I will give you a couple tips on the blog that will still make this possible. So we will dump our horseradish in with a splash of cold water. And we will begin like we always begin with this stuff. We'll pulse on and off to get it started. And once it gets going, we'll give it about a half minute, at which point we'll stop and scrape it down, just in case any of the bigger chunks are not mixing in. And it's at this point I must issue a very serious warning. As soon as we take off this top to stir it up, you're going to get hit in the face with a huge invisible cloud of fiery horseradish gas. So do not, under any circumstances, stick your face in there. And make sure you're working in a very, very, very well ventilated room. Like I'm talking windows open and fans behind you blowing the fumes away. And I'm not exaggerating, this is like tear gas level eye pain. Or so I've been told by friends. So we will stir that with the spatula and continue grinding. And we do want to get this pretty fine. And during this process, if you think it needs another splash of water, you are going to go ahead and add one, which is what I'm doing right here. I thought it needed to be a little wetter. So we'll go ahead and we'll continue grinding, adding as much water as we think it needs, until we have a very, very fine mixture that looks something like this. And again, let me reiterate, the fumes coming from this thing are incredibly, searingly hot. In fact, if you own a gas mask, that would not be a bad idea here. Or maybe just some ski goggles. But anyway, that's up to you. You're the Mr. Ed of what to put on your head. And then at this point, what we'll do is wait exactly 2 minutes before adding the salt and the vinegar. And from what I've heard, if you wait a couple minutes before adding the vinegar, you'll actually increase the heat level of your prepared horseradish. And I'm not sure of the science behind it, or if that's just an old wives' tale, but I do it, because I remember someone saying that a long time ago, which is why I do a lot of things. So I'm going to let my mixture sit there exactly 2 minutes, and once we've given it a heat-generating rest, we are now fine to dump in the salt and our white distilled vinegar. And once we've added those, we're going to continue to process this until we have a nice, very fine, kind of smooth, kind of creamy mixture. And just like when we processed our horseradish cubes to begin with, it's going to be up to us to add enough water to get the proper texture. Or, as I should say, the texture you want. So I let that run for about a minute, and then I took the lid off, gave it the old check with the spatula, again doing my best to avoid those eye-searing gases, and decided to add another splash of water. And we'll continue to do that, processing, checking, adding water if necessary, until eventually we get something that looks like this. And it may sound obvious, but what we're going for is something that has the consistency of a nice prepared horseradish from the store. So let's go ahead and take a closer look as I transfer this into my airtight storage container. And it sure looks like prepared horseradish. And it definitely smells like prepared horseradish. But does it taste like a delicious extra hot prepared horseradish? Yes. Yes, it does. This just has such a vibrant, intense, aromatic horseradish flavor that really is superior to anything you're going to find at the market. And then once you have transferred that into some kind of airtight containers, we will seal that up and keep it refrigerated where it should last for, at least a month. And yes, you can also freeze this. But anyway, that's it. How to make your own hot prepared horseradish. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to go try to find a nice big piece of prime rib somewhere so I can double check that this stuff is as awesome as I think it is. So I really do hope you try to go out and find some fresh horseradish root, as well as access to a very well ventilated kitchen, and give this great condiment and pretty fun project a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.